What's up, guys? It's Ron from Rohde Law, and we're heading to an industrial property in North Texas. This video is going to be about my very first deal. We're going to talk about how I found it, how I financed it, debt, equity, how I underwrote it, and really everything that you would need to know as a beginner to buy an industrial triple net property. I'm also joined by Jordan, who is in college, and he's going to be asking some questions that you may have out there as you watch the video.
Hi everyone, I'm Jordan. I think a good question to kick this off is, what initially drew you to this property?
I think that for me, I was coming from an SFR background. I had 6 houses. They were all fully rented out with long-term tenants. And even with the property manager, it was a lot of work. And so what I was looking for was a new asset class that had longer leases, had more upside, I think, over time, and it allowed me to deploy more equity into a single deal at once. Because anybody who's underwritten properties, you know that there's a ton of work that goes into evaluating properties. And once you find a good deal, I would rather put more money down instead of diversifying across a lot of properties. So that's what led me to industrial. And then this location is 1 minute off of 75, which is a major thoroughfare here in North Texas. It's in Plano, which is one of the fastest growing high income counties in North Texas. And all of these factors are what led me to feeling confident enough to pull the trigger on my first deal.
Could you talk a little bit more about how you exactly found this deal for someone like me who's not necessarily an expert?
Yeah, this deal actually was from a wholesaler. It was a friend of mine that buys a lot of industrial real estate. It was something that he had under contract and didn't necessarily want to close because of the small deal size.
Another question I'm wondering, could you talk a little bit about the finance structure for this property and how you went about with that?
Yeah, so we have a partner's equity structure. We're all in a single LLC as active members. So I think the equity on this was like $800,000 or $900,000. We just split that pari passu, so that means everybody is equal, pro-rata to their equity. So it's, you put $200,000 or $300,000 down as equity, but it avoids me having to come up with $1 million out of my own pocket. And I really recommend this structure for people starting off because it allows you to kick ideas off people, you can brainstorm, but you really have more resources and it spreads out some of that financial impact. And then the debt we sourced from a local bank that is a Texas, it's a regional bank in the southeast, and we got a 5-year fixed rate debt.
Let's assume you don't have the money to finance this. How would you finance the capital stack for purchasing a property like this?
Well, I think that people tend to focus on what they don't have, and the reality is that commercial real estate has a lot of money sloshing around looking for good deals. And I would focus on finding a good deal first, and the money will come. Now, specifically how you get the money on the equity side, I think you have to be able to answer every single question that a friends and family or another investor would ask about partnering with you. And for the debt piece, again, I think you have to find a equity partner that can guarantee the loan. And if you watch one of my other videos, you can either find this person and pay them a fee, you can give them a piece of the LLC for a promote, but there are individuals that will sign loan guarantees if you don't have the net worth of the loan balance. There are people that sign it for a piece of the upside profit.
Let's say you're a new landlord. What are some common mistakes that they should be mindful to avoid?
The biggest mistake is not raising rents enough or quickly because you're operating from a position of fear. If you do your market research and you do your due diligence talking to prospective tenants, you will have confidence that if this tenant leaves, you can backfill a new tenant at market rent.
Final question that I want to ask, and I think all the viewers would benefit from, what's the best piece of advice that you would give someone looking to become a landlord?
Yeah, if you want to make money in commercial real estate, you have to start with expertise. You have to have knowledge, and what I recommend is finding the smallest sub-market. And for some people, if you don't have a lot of time, if you're working a busy job, you might only focus on 2 to 3 blocks, a couple of exits on the highway. But what you need to do is identify every single industrial building or multifamily that fits the type of building that you want to buy. And you create a spreadsheet. You know who owns it, where are they based, what other properties do they own, when did they buy it, how much did they pay for it, what their current rents are, what their current occupancy is, what their property taxes are, who services them. All of these questions, if you know that about the 70 properties in your submarket, you will be an expert that when one of those properties comes up for sale, or you can reach out to those building owners, you will know with confidence whether something is a good deal or not. And the size of your submarket is directly a function of how much time you have and how quickly you want to find a deal. But if you don't have a lot of free time, you might narrow down that circle and make it really small. But if you have more free time, you could look at all of North Texas. You could look at Dallas County, for example. But that's what I would do if I was getting started, to develop that confidence and expertise.
Thank you for those responses. I hope those were helpful.
So this is the property. We've got some great outdoor storage, industrial outdoor storage up here. It's fully leased. Everybody loves the outdoor spaces. It's easier to get in and out of versus the interior spots. But these are in high demand, again, for the proximity. We have a golf cart company that rents a ton of space from us. Security cameras, we'll check up on those later. They are SIM cards and solar powered. These are all private outdoor storage bays, so they have walls inside, and these are separate units that some people will just store materials for their business in here. This is literally what I do. I'll come up here just to pick up some trash for 5 minutes. I think it's like 22-foot clear heights. It's a clear span building, so there's no columns. Makes it really functional to store equipment. You can see we've got some concrete scaffolding guys. They're a big tenant.
How many different tenants do you have total?
I think on this side there's maybe 15, 12. I've got a lot of the outdoor units on the other side too, so there's probably 6 different tenants that have private units on that side. One of the questions I feel like people ask me a lot is, how do you account for property taxes and insurance? And the reality is I really don't. If there are single expenses that are less than a month or 2 of cash flow, I really don't worry about it, because I will just save up money when the bill is due and then pay it then.
Right.
So for example, property taxes on this, I think, were $32,000. So in December, I will just save the money, and then January I'll save the money, and then I'll pay property taxes. But it's tough, I think I've could put money into fixing the lighting, but these guys won't necessarily pay more rent. And I think from a new investor perspective, finding a building that has these types of tenants also makes it a lot less intimidating, because you can deal with them. And you're not dealing with a Fortune 500 real estate department who you're worried about them overwhelming you in negotiations, and they've got lawyers and CPAs and brokers, and everybody's fighting against you. But it is work, and you do need to be organized, and you do have to understand what the market dictates.
Could you talk a little bit about some issues that occur on a monthly basis? I know recently we repaired some springs. Just kind of go into what that looks like.
Yeah, so understanding what are the most important parts of your building, the physical plant, we call it, like, the plant, which is the walls, the foundation, electrical, plumbing delivery. Gates and access points are pretty critical, because they're used a lot. I mean, this door probably opens 20 to 30 times. Funny story is that this used to have a motor, or it does have a motor, fully functional, that you could just do a keypad and electronically open and close. However, it kept breaking, and a lot of times I was spending a lot of money fixing this motor, just with the balance, and it's too strong, and it's a big door, so it has to be a very powerful motor, all this stuff. And eventually the tenants were like, well, the door's always broken. It's like, can we just have a manual chain? We prefer a manual chain because it's faster and it's just more reliable. And that's what they valued. And it kind of blew my mind. I was like, I wish you guys would have told me that a year ago, because I've just spent $5,000 repairing this thing because I thought it was nicer to be motorized. You know, and it just depends on your tenants and the frequency of use. You have to know what your tenants are using. So let's take a look outside. Not too much trash.
No, it's pretty clean. Occasional Bud Light drink.
But see, you do need some preventative maintenance. You can see that grass is growing up there. That's in the gutter. And I've cleaned that out. You know, I did it myself. I climbed on the roof. It was like maybe 9 months ago. And so that just has to be something that if you want your building to look nice, once a year, twice a year, you need to clean out those gutters and prevent grass from growing. So I wanted to point out this pole. This just recently got hit. One of the tenants let us know. But what's important about it is that you just have to have a procedure for tenants inform you of a problem, and then how do you fix the problem? Here you can see a shot of, these are some of more of those private units I was talking about, but they're all fully leased. I wish I could show you inside one of them, but they all got locks on them. And in the back we have the other masonry tenant that takes up the whole back space. Living Earth has been here for a long time, but when they were doing this mulching, the black mulch, it has a tendency to blow in the wind, and it was kind of covering it, and people didn't like the dust that it created. So the city of Plano actually made them come in and put these telephone poles in and install giant nets at huge cost, you know, considerable cost to the tenant, in an attempt to catch the dust that is blown off of their mulch piles and you know, spreading around. After a couple of months or maybe a year of that, the city came back and actually said, we changed our mind. We think that the netting that we required you to install is ugly, and we're requiring you to cut it down.
Wow.
So that's just an example of some of the challenges real estate investors face. The city can be completely irrational, requiring you to spend tens of thousands of dollars to install netting to prevent a harm. And then they decide that it's too ugly, and they take it down to just let the dust blow around in the wind. But it's kind of crazy they have this power to just impose it. And I mean, I don't know what my advice is, but just make sure that, you know, you get certain things in writing or indemnifications. But you know, the tenant paid for it, not the landlord, is a condition of their. So as a real estate investor, you're protected, but that just goes to show you kind of how crazy cities can be. Well, that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed the tour of this industrial triple net property with truck parking, RV parking. There's really a ton of upside and lots of opportunities. What you want to see when you know you're picking a location is accessibility, proximity to customers. This is one of those locations. It's right off the main highway. It has a major cross street, and there's tons of development going around. So smash that like button if you're still watching, subscribe if you like the content, and we'll see you next time.